Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Okay. Good morning. My name's Colin. Thanks for joining me. If you're on Zoom, hello. If you're on YouTube, hello. It's nice to have your company. We start off with a question which I think is quite interesting. How likely is it that we're going to get a referral letter as opposed to, for example, a discharge letter? More often than not, this is anecdotal, it seems people have referral letters, but there are only three types of letter: a letter of referral, of discharge, or transfer. So that's it. But like I say, it's best to be prepared for all of them. They're not radically different. I'll be completely honest with you. Hello, Irina. So yeah, I wouldn't get too stressed about it. It's just you need to be clear about what kind of letter you're writing. I think that's the main thing in the introduction. Who is the patient? What's the main issue? Why am I writing to you? I'm writing to you, to transfer this patient into your care. But good question. Thanks for the start. If you're on Zoom, if you don't mind, keep your questions, comments, answers, work in general in the chat box. And for those of you on YouTube, do your thing in the comments box. I will have a few things to say before we get started. The first of which is that we still have the power package available. It's useful for those of you who've not yet decided which package you want to do with E2 Language. This was so successful, we've extended it. It was going to end a week or so ago, but it's carried on. It's valid for 6 months, but it does include a 4-week study plan, access to live classes, speaking and writing assessment, and mock test with feedback. What a bargain. I think it's only $75 if I'm not mistaken. Another thing, we are now in week 3 of the May challenge. If you complete a mini mock test, reading, listening, writing, and speaking, if you do that by the end of this Sunday, I'm assuming that's Sunday night in Melbourne, so I guess Sunday morning in England, for example, you get feedback, which is brilliant, and then you're also in the running for a $50 MasterCard voucher. So you got some chance of benefiting from that too. So take part in our May challenge. It's excellent. At E2 Language, we offer feedback on your writing. I know it can be hard when you're studying on your own because you don't know how you're doing, how you're evolving. We will help you with that. So we have excellent case notes for you to look at, to work with. You write your letter according to the case notes, submitted through the platform. It is then analysed, scored, and feedback is given and sent back to you directly. It's definitely worthwhile, as are the one-on-one tutorials, which we do on Zoom, covering 1 or 2 areas of the test which interest you. A lot of people want to do writing. That's fine. I think it's a very good format to do writing and speaking, but also reading and listening. And if you do want to do writing, please make sure that you've submitted a piece of our writing through the platform. Otherwise, it's a bit of a weird experience because we've got nothing to talk about in terms of work that you have done to give you, an analysis and feedback on your work. Okay, but get your questions answered, and it's overall a very, very good experience. We do have examples of discharge and transfer letters. If you don't mind, keep your questions in the chat box rather than Q&A. That would be fantastic. Much appreciated. Then I don't need to open multiple windows. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is the mini mock test. I've already mentioned it. It's great, the mini mock test. It's done entirely through our platform, so there's no risk of infection or disease. It does include 1 speaking role play, piece of writing such as you'd find in the test, and then all of the reading and all of the listening. Okay, so please do that. My pleasure. Right, let's get on with today's class. We're going to test your English with a little quiz. We're going to learn a method for completing the writing task. We'll analyze that task. We'll then select the relevant case notes, plan out the writing. We'll write the start of the letter in a standard way. Our focus today is on the other details paragraph. It's one of several paragraphs you'll be writing, but today just that one. We'll then look at the entire model letter, check out the criteria again, and do another short quiz. Okay, lots to get through, but the whole thing will take an hour. You'll be fine. Have a pen and paper handy though. Note taking is going to be very useful for you. And we'll do a quiz in a moment, but before we do the quiz, let's just remind ourselves of the key verb tenses in English. There are 12 in total, and we genuinely do use all of it. That being the case, the ones in blue at the top are the ones that we tend to use more often. For example, the present simple, Mr. Lin urgently requires your expert assistant. The present continuous, Ms. Adams is currently receiving. The present perfect, Ms. Smith has been treated with cold compression therapy. The present perfect continuous, Mrs. Tran has been undertaking. And the past simple, Mr. Jones was admitted to St. Andrews 2 weeks after his operation. So these are the most commonly used, these 5 of the 12. So let's do a little quiz. I'm going to give you at least a minute. I don't know what the time it says. Sometimes these times are a little short, but up there, I'll give you a minute. All right, take a minute or so to fill in these sentences. The options are given in the brackets there for you. Listen, good luck. Just a note for everyone who's watching this, all of our live classes are recorded and uploaded into the platform, into the E2 language platform, and there they stay for 2 weeks under the tab of recorded classes. Some of our material is available for live streaming on YouTube. Some material is made available on YouTube, but not all of our live class material is. Okay, so 60 seconds, please, to do these sentences. Thanks a lot for sharing your observations. Let's see how you did. Please don't sit in the waiting room if you haven't made an appointment. The afternoons get busy at the clinic, so it's best to call ahead. Full infinitive there. Chloe was trying to get pregnant for 3 years before she came to our clinic. Notice if the option had also been had been trying, the past perfect continuous, that would have been fine too. But it's not available, so was trying is the best answer. Number 4, if her blood pressure goes down any further, we'll have to call the consultant. Number 5, he is still drowsy because of the anesthesia, but let me know if anything changes. Oh, well, welcome, Alina. Thank you for joining. Number 6, Mr. Cohen's condition is getting worse. Poor Mr. Cohen. Brilliant. Thank you for your answers. Somebody joining from Brazil. Hello today in Brazil. I hope you're okay. The situation there doesn't look brilliant. I hope things improve very quickly for everybody. Great. All right then. Let's take an overview of the writing test for the OET. The writing test requires you to read and analyze the task, to read and analyze some case notes, and then to write a letter of referral, of discharge or transfer. If you weren't here, the first question I answered today was about, well, what are the chances of having any of these kind of letters? It seems in general people are asked to write referral letters, but it could be a discharge letter or a transfer letter. In the live classes, we have a 10-week cycle. So if this is your first week this week, and you come back every week for the next 9 weeks after this, you will see new case notes every week. But do know that I think more of the examples that we have are referral letters, but we do cover all 3. So just be prepared for any of those, okay? Hello, Saudi Arabia. I hope you are well. Cool. So let's move on. The 45 minutes is divided. I realize every time I forget my video. I realize that I forget to put my video on from time to time, but if you are not seeing my beautiful visage, I think you can still concentrate on the content. 5 minutes of reading time and 40 minutes of writing time. In 5 minutes of reading time, which should be treated as a reading comprehension task, you're going to read the task, you're going to work out who you're writing the letter to and what action they need to take. You then need to read the case notes to understand key facts about the patient's condition. You will, of course, use the headings and subheadings to guide you. Just because something has a heading or a subheading does not necessarily mean you need to include it. Yeah, I was just thinking, look, sometimes people feel, oh, they've included a heading, they've included a subheading, I need to put something, one element from that. No, not necessarily. Remember what I said, treat it as reading comprehension. This is not a test of your medical knowledge. I'm sure you're all excellent medical professionals, but you may well have to look at something which is, I don't know, related to OBGYN, or you have to read a case which is about, I don't know, lungs, and that's not your area. It's not like all of a sudden you should need to sit and regret that I didn't pay more attention at medical school about the lung section. That's not the point, okay? You've got to spend these 5 minutes doing this, reading notes and thinking, who is going to read this letter and do they need to know this information? And yeah, you need to work out for yourself if this information is relevant, highly relevant, slightly relevant. If it is at all relevant, it's going in the letter. My determination, okay, as the candidate. And in the letter it will go, or out of the letter it will stay. Then in the 40 minutes of writing time, you will plan out 3, 4, or 5 short paragraphs for about 5 minutes. You're going to work out what's going to go in each paragraph and essentially the flow of the letter. Okay, there needs to be a logical flow. That can vary from person to person. Our focus today, as I said, is going to be on the other details paragraph. You'll then write carefully your paragraphs. That's where the 180 to 200 words counts between the introduction and the request paragraph. Okay, so easy, right? Let's start then with this 5 minutes of reading time. You'll analyze the task to work out who you're writing the letter to, what action that person needs to take, what key information they need in order to do their job, and what prior knowledge they have of your patient. You'll then read the case notes and work out what is relevant, what is repeated and relevant, and what's not relevant at all. I need to explain, if you've never seen this before, why we make a distinction between relevant and repeated and relevant. That's because there could be a piece of relevant information which is told to me more than once. Something about family history, something about comorbidity, something about, I don't know, a previous operation. But how many times do I need to mention in the letter that he's had hip replacement? Okay. How many words can you exceed or go under before you're penalized? Look, the guideline is 180 to 200 words. I would imagine that if you wrote 172 words, that wouldn't be a huge problem. And if you wrote 210 words, that wouldn't be a problem. If you wrote 130 words, I think you've got issues. And if you're writing 240 words, I think that's a big problem too. The marker isn't sitting there with his or her pen going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not quite like that. But if you can't train yourself as you practice for this test to write within that window of 180 to 200 words, okay, meet that challenge. All right. Don't underdo it. Don't overdo it. Thank you very much, Mohammed. I hope that was useful. Cool bananas. Let's then have a look. This is the task this week. Seema, you embarrass me. I'm blushing. Here's the task. I'd like you to answer these 4 questions. Who am I writing this letter to? What action do I want the reader to take? What does the reader need to know? And what does the reader already know? Okay, you have a minute to answer these 4 questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for your observations. A couple of people have asked, by the way, about this, the new version, the new method of delivery of the OET, the computer-based, internet-based test. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end, if you don't mind, because I think a lot of people might have questions about it. I don't have that many answers, but we can talk about it at the end. Thank you for your observations. Let's see. Who am I writing to? The patient's GP, Dr. Arnold Zeimer. What action do I want the reader to take? Follow-up care. What does the reader need to know? The current condition, situation, and test results. And what does the reader already know? Well, they have prior knowledge of the patient, probably. We are writing to the GP. It's not every time you write to a GP that they necessarily have prior knowledge, so you need to check the case notes for that. But if you're writing to a GP, it's a fairly safe assumption that the GP does have prior knowledge. Okay, nice. Sorry, just had a cup of tea. Cool. Right. Oh, very good. I'm happy, Mohammed, that we are meeting your expectations. We aim to please the D2 language. Right, we're going to look at the case notes and we're going to decide what is now relevant, what is repeated and relevant, and what's not relevant at all. When you see my case notes organized, it's red for relevant, blue for repeated and relevant, and I just leave the not relevant information in black. Why do we do this? Well, according to the test criteria, there's two criteria that we're trying to meet. First, the content. If I want top marks, I've included key information and I've not left out important information. And then for conciseness and clarity, I'm not including irrelevant information. Okay? It's your determination. It's always interesting to do this task with doctors. Bless you all, because you're all good at your jobs. So usually at the end of this little section, I get inundated with questions about why did you include this, or why on earth didn't you include that? What I'd like you to bear in mind when you do this task is you are doing this as a reading comprehension task and thinking, does the GP, in this case, the GP, need to know this information about this patient? And, for example, I'm writing to the GP, there are certain assumptions that I can make about knowledge that the GP has about the patient, right? It's his patient after all. Anyway, bear all of that in mind. I'll give you 5 minutes now to organize the case notes appropriately, and I will see you in 5 minutes. Good luck, everyone. Excellent. Thank you very much. And again, you don't have to share the notes. Somebody asked an interesting question about date of discharge. Where's the date of discharge? From the case notes, what can we deduct perhaps about the date of discharge? Can we make a deduction about the date of discharge? Some people are saying the 8th of the 8th. Yeah, she was kept for a day. Okay, so if it's not immediately obvious, the other thing is, look, you've got the admission date on the 7th. Don't tie yourself in knots worrying about what I would consider to be relatively speaking, minor issues. Focus on the most important things that you do immediately, more immediately understand. So yes, same day, walk in and walk, well, didn't exactly walk in, did she? But anyway, you get the idea. Let's have a look then at my organization of the case notes. In red, first of all, we got some information there. ER doctor, I'm an ER doctor. Patient's name, admission date, social background, a little bit there, a little bit of relevant patient history, some of the admission details, and quite a lot of objective observations, and a small fraction of the discharge plan. That's relevant. Now let's do repeated and relevant in blue. So we talk, the neighbor appears several times. That's an example of the sort of repeated relevant information that I was talking about before, and a little bit more then in the objective information and the discharge plan. You may at this point want to do two things. First of all, you may want to take a screenshot of this page with the organized case notes, organized by color: red for relevant, blue for repeated and relevant, and black is just not relevant at all. For example, sun in Canada. You may also want to ask me, why, oh why did you not include this, that, or the other? If you want to, that's fine. Somebody's asked, well, why is it important to have the children's contact or the children's contact information? I would ask you, what about hypothyroidism? Is it not relevant? I ask the group, is hypothyroidism relevant or not relevant? I'm writing to the GP. Do you think the GP knows about the hypothyroidism? Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of question you ask yourself. Okay, who's receiving this letter? So, yeah, that's my point. Yeah, I think it's important that we know about the contact with the children. But okay, let's move on. Thank you very much for your observations. We move on, onwards and upwards to the writing time of 40 minutes. Very important that you do know how flexible you need to be when you're approaching writing in the OET. Yeah, so the approach to writing in this test is different to other tests, and I don't just say that as some way of cool branding for the OET. It's not like that at all, but your approach does need to be different. You can have different numbers of paragraphs, you can have different approaches. There is not a standard template for doing this particular task in the test. Okay, intro. I'm going to answer that question because somebody's asked, why include the living conditions in the social history? If you're writing to the GP probably knows it. I've included it because I think it's relevant. It's relevant to the current circumstance. Okay, that the way that she's living is contributing to this kind of situation. That's why I've included it, and that's why I think it's important that the GP hears basically my take on it. Okay, because of the way she's living, this is happening. And I mean, who and what determines what is relevant and what's not relevant? You do, my friend. You determine what is relevant and not relevant based on the circumstances you find yourself writing in. I'm writing a letter to the patient's GP, and based on those circumstances, I'm going to make these choices. Okay, that seems fair enough to me. So be flexible, my friends. Be flexible. Cool. Our focus will be on the other details paragraph, but before we get there, let's talk about planning and writing. You're going to follow an outline for addressing the recipient. We'll do that in a moment. You're going to take notes and plan, focused on just the one paragraph in today, but in general for the whole letter. And then when you write, you will continually check the relevance and importance of what you're writing, please leaving a few minutes at the end to check your work. It's very important. So the letter outline starts with the title and full name of the recipient at the start, if you have it. Sometimes you won't. Their job title, their full address, all of which is provided, and then the date. The date of the letter, just write the date of the test. I know that we've got a date in this letter. Don't worry about that. Just write the date of the test. It's best practice. Then the reference line. The title, Mr. Mrs. Ms, and the full name of the patient and their age or their date of birth. You decide. Then you write Dear Dr. Mr. Mrs. Ms and their family name. Then you write the letter, and then you write yours sincerely if you know their name, yours faithfully if you do not know their name, although again, that doesn't really matter that much. If a widow, is it Mrs. or Ms? You're worrying about very minor information here. I do not think that the examiner will sit down and say, well, the letter's pretty good, but it's clear she's a widow and she didn't write Mrs. Fail. Okay, so if it's a widow, Mrs., but again, don't worry too much about that. Okay, so all the information you need to do this is in the task. If my slides will cooperate with me. There it is. Take 90 seconds to write the letter outline. Good, thanks. Okay, let's have a look then. So there it is. Dr. Arnold Zymer, General Practitioner, 10 Hotham Street, St Kilda, 0708-2018. I'm a great fan of the 8-number date format. It's not essential, it's just, I think, practical and clear and easy to understand. Dear Dr. Zymer, Mrs. Ann Jenkins, date of birth, 2004, 1929, and then yours sincerely, Doctor. If you write Dr. Zymer above or below the reference line, it doesn't matter. If you write the date above or below the address, it doesn't matter. If you write yours faithfully, yours sincerely, it doesn't matter. Get the idea? Get it right, more or less, but don't Don't go over the top. Right. So the guts of the letter is where the 180 to 200 words really count. We then move into the planning and checking case notes phase. You will decide how many paragraphs will be in the letter, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5, and you will decide what information will go into each paragraph. Today, our focus is on other details, meaning key issues have been covered. What else is relevant? You're now going to spend 90 seconds finding what we would define as additional information from the case notes. See you in a minute and a half. Lovely. Thank you. Thanks very much. For those of you who decided to share some of your observations. Let's have a look. This is my take on it. Anne Jenkins, unable to contact patient's children, left voicemail. Neighbour report, ++ reason falls requiring assistance, likely due to location of bathroom, in answer to the question somebody asked earlier. And then social background. Has supportive neighbour observed some forgetfulness? Okay, so we're going to write the other details paragraph. All right. Words, language that you might want to be including when you write this paragraph, likely due to requiring assistance, cognitive decline, and observed. There are the main issues on the left-hand side. Have a go now. You've got 5 minutes to write your other details paragraph, and by all means, go ahead and share with me. I like seeing it. See you in 5 minutes. Good luck, everyone. Lovely, and thank you very much for those of you who did share. Much appreciated. Somebody asked a question about using an article in front of a procedure like colonoscopy and things. Yes, you need an article. Okay. Good. Thank you. Let's have a look. This is what I've got. Attempts were made to contact Mrs. Jenkins' adult children, and messages were left. Her neighbour reported that she has had several recent falls requiring assistance, likely due to having to move between the ground floor living space and the bathroom on the first floor. The neighbour also observed evidence of possible cognitive decline. So there you have it, three sentences. Great. Okay, here's the whole letter. You may now want to take a picture of the whole thing, take a screenshot by all means, and of course, if you have any questions thus far, by all means, do ask them. Anything there that doesn't make sense. You'll notice the introduction, I'm writing this letter to GP. Your patient, Mrs. Jenkins, will be discharged from our emergency department today following a fall at home. While no specific injuries were found, there are concerns surrounding her general level of self-care that we would like you to review. Okay? So there you have it. Thank you very much. Good, Mohammed, appreciate that, thank you. Okay, all good, let's move on then. Back to the criteria, specifically genre and style, and more specifically than that, modal verbs, must, could, should, would, and so on. Very, very important aspect of language. And you find it scattered throughout the letter. In the introduction, for example, I would like to refer Mr. Bernstein, who requires in the guts of the letter, main issue, secondary, and other details paragraphs. Mr. Awad might have sustained minor whiplash. Mrs. Schurler could not feel her fingertips. And then in the request, Mrs. Wright may require an MRI or a CT scan. Okay, we use them hither and thither. And they're commonly used for a specific context. So have to and mustn't are two examples. Patients have to refrain from eating for 12 hours before surgery, and you must not eat for 12 hours before your operation. They have the same sort of meaning, do they not? And that's the idea of obligation. So what we now have is a little table for you. Have to and must. Context is obligation. Two more examples. Children with an asthma management plan have to bring their Ventolin inhalers with them on the bus. And also, all visitors must report to reception. If you felt that the third paragraph should have come before the second, again, if you think stylistically it works for you, then go ahead and do that, no problem. Next, modal verbs, can and could express permission and ability. If you can read the bottom line, you do not need glasses. Mrs. Jones could not breathe without the help of a respirator. Sadly, too often the case nowadays. Should and ought to are suggestions. You should not go into the ocean too soon after drinking alcohol. These pills ought to make you feel better within 30 minutes. Then we have will and would, request and capability. It would be greatly appreciated if, and the test will prove whether the cancer has spread or not. Then we have might or may, which express probability and permission. The A&E might not be able to handle the number of casualties from the coach crash. May we adjust her medication to a lower dosage? If you want to take a screenshot at this moment, that would be perfectly fine to do so. Might be useful because modal verbs are excellent. Again, realized my video is off again. I'll turn it around. Okay, so moving on, a quiz. Okay, here it is. You've got 2 minutes. Using the box at the bottom, choose the most appropriate modal verb for each of these blanks. Okay, you've got 2 minutes to do this. I'll see you in Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for your answers. All right, let's have a look. The surgeon must perform the operation within the next hour to save the patient's life. Unfortunately, we could not find a suitable donor, so we had to contact our colleagues in a neighbouring hospital who told us they would try to help us. While Mr. Singh may feel a little dizzy, his hypertension will be better controlled now that he can measure his own blood pressure. Good old Mr. Singh. All right then, what can you do? Definitely take advantage of our excellent platform, lots of stuff in there. And of course, the official OET website for information on writing, but also up-to-date information on test centres, venues, and so on. For your listening, podcasts, and be eclectic about your podcast intake. I think a good varied menu is good for you as well. Reading, New England Journal of Medicine, and Science Daily, free and great. And then TED Talks, ted.com/talks is brilliant too. Don't forget our power package is still available. If you've not yet decided what you want to do, think about taking a power package. They're great value for money, I think $75. 6 months in validity, 4-week study plan included, live class access, speaking and writing assessment, and mock with feedback. Speaking of the mock test, for those of you who complete a mock test by Sunday, end of Sunday Melbourne time, you're in the running for a $50 MasterCard voucher. There'll be 3 winners. Good for you. I mentioned the mock tests. Go ahead and do them. And now, if you have any questions, I will happily answer them. A couple of people had things that they wanted to ask. Somebody asked about the test, and I will, in the meantime, go back to the letter so you can see the letter in all of its glory. There you go. Come on. There it is. Right. The online test. OET have been remarkable, and in a very short period of time, they have partnered with a company that's helping them to take the test online. It is not compulsory to take the test online. It is a very handy new alternative for people who cannot go to a test centre, because the test centres, according to government writ or decree, have been closed for now. Different places are starting to open up. Thank you, Abdul. I appreciate your comment. I'm in Melbourne, so different places around Australia seem to be a bit under control. New Zealand as well. So test centres will presumably start opening soon. Do check for up-to-date information on exactly which test centres are available through the OET website. I can understand the concept of writing format when it comes to writing, not organising the letter and using linking words. Okay, Mohammed, if you're in the E2 language platform, I would definitely recommend going to the core skills section of our site, which will give you a lot of the basic grammar I think that you need to improve your overall approach. Okay, so back up your core skills, back them up. Revisit, should I say. I will show the case notes as well. You have access to the recording of the webinar in the recorded classes section of what we do. There are the case notes. Somebody wants to see the case notes again. You don't know, so as I said, no one has to take the online version, but it is made available for those of you who want to do that. And frankly, yeah, I don't know. I think it depends a lot on the individual. Have with the IELTS test. For those of you who've done the IELTS test, you'll know that there's a computer-based version and paper version as well. I did the computer-based IELTS. It's quite interesting. In the discharge letter, where do I put social? Wherever you think it belongs. Remember what I said about being flexible? I would suggest that social and medical background would come after. You have details, for example, of why the patient is in the situation he or she is in. Thank you, Mohammed. Appreciate that. Good. All right then. Think about joining a course. We'd be very happy to have you on. Oh, good. All right. Good. Go ahead and recommend the reading as well. That'd be very, very good. The online test, my understanding is that the online test will be, I mean, they're not going to restrict it by nation, I don't think. I know that the OET are doing a lot of official material through their social media, through Facebook and through their website. So they're revealing a lot of information to the public about the online version of the OET question and answer. I know Rebecca does a lot of that stuff. I'm assuming a lot of the people here watch Rebecca's excellent videos. I can talk very openly about the official OET material. No one else, us and them. But yes, do check out Rebecca's stuff because she will be able to answer those questions. Or I'm sure it's usually Rebecca. How many classes in the OET course? Up to 3 classes, one-to-one tutorials, but for the live classes, you have a lot of access to live classes, okay? So don't worry too much about running out of class. Remember, like I say, we have a 10-week cycle. So we do repeat our live classes twice a day. So it's 7 a.m. in Melbourne and 5 p.m. in Melbourne. And then we do one again on the weekends. So Saturday and Sunday, we do more of the same material. And then the new cycle starts again on Monday or Sunday night, depending on where you are. Okay. How do you work on sentence structure and grammar? As I said before, I would strongly recommend going through our core skills aspects, but also our sister website, E2 School. Sign up at E2 School for free. We have a lot of really good stuff to help back up your skills. Okay, thank you, Syed. We of course recommend looking at writing and speaking. Silver package, maybe, Mohammed. Silver package might be useful. A couple of tutorials and all of the other material that's available too. I hope you're not in an immediate hurry. There's no silver bullet. Ah, good, Seema. I'm glad. I'm glad that that's been useful for you. My pleasure. Okay, everyone. Nice. So anyway, good luck. Keep your ears and eyes open regarding the online version of the OET. Also keep your eyes and ears open as regards to updated information about local test centres. Discharge letter to the GP must mention everything, every single time you mention date of birth. Absolutely. Remember, date of birth is a defining feature when you put the tags on patients in hospitals. It's always got the date of birth, and you always ask it every time. Good morning, Mr. David. Can you confirm your date of birth, please? So just include the date of birth so we know which we're talking about. Okay. Free subscribers, can you access the recordings as well? No. Upgrade. All right. Brilliant. It is possible to purchase tutorials on a need to purchase basis. And if you want, guys on YouTube, if you want to check out all the packages we have available at E2 Language, just go to our website and we do advertise them very blatantly and clearly with all the prices on the E2 Language OET website. But don't forget, I mean, the great offer that we have, if you've not chosen yet, is the Power Package. Okay. Nice. All right, everyone. Listen, thanks so much for your time and attention. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, your weekend, etc. Cheers. Bye-bye.